and members of the House. They can't get home to their districts yet. They've only been able to convene town halls thus far by phone, teletown halls, or in some cases by Zoom. But I want you to look at this. I don't know that this has been reported elsewhere, at least in aggregate, but I was shocked by these numbers today, and we started looking this up today. Look at the numbers they're getting at these town halls. Congressman Jimmy Gomez from California says nearly 10,000 people, more than 9,800 people, called in from his district for his telephone town hall. He called a town hall on the phone, and 9,812 people from his district called in. Wow. Congressman Brendan Boyle from Pennsylvania, he just convened what he called an emergency town hall for his district in Pennsylvania. It had more than 10,000 people calling in. Congressman Greg Stanton, Democrat of Arizona, he says he had more than 13,000 people call into his town hall in Arizona. Kim Schreier is a Washington state congresswoman. Her office says 14,000 people in her district called into her town hall. Congresswoman Terry Sewell is from Alabama. Alabama, not exactly a bleeding heart blue state, right? Congresswoman Sewell says that when she convened a town hall last night, they had more than 20,000 people on the line from her district. More than 20,000 people in Alabama. In one congressional district in Alabama. Alabama voted for Trump by like a 30-point margin in the election in November. But you know what the largest employer is in Alabama? It's the Redstone Arsenal at Huntsville, Alabama. And every day, that is where 30 or 40,000 federal employees of various stripes go to work, or people whose jobs are funded by the federal government and its appropriations. That's the largest employer in the state of Alabama. You know what the second largest employer is in the state of Alabama? It's the University of Alabama at Birmingham, which, like all large research universities, has just been shot in both proverbial kneecaps, with Trump and Elon Musk unilaterally asserting with no notice and against the law that research facilities like UAB are about to have their funding dramatically and immediately cut with no warning. And those are like just the big cuts, like the existential cuts for a state like Alabama and its economy. Local news in places like Huntsville, Alabama this week are already reporting on smaller, lower profile cuts that are already sending local people just reeling.
Some Huntsville Utilities customers have been notified that their accounts have been debited, all due to one of President Trump's executive orders. Huntsville Utilities tells Fox 54 that some customers who receive grant money from the federal government through local community action agencies now need to pay that money back. This is a direct result of President Trump's executive order to rescind federal funding. And although a federal judge did block this order last month, today, that judge found the Trump administration did not fully follow his order.
Accounts have been debited. They're just taking money out of people's accounts as part of their utility bill. Oh, Trump cut off all that money. That's been helping pay your utility bill, Alabama. And so now we're going to start taking all that money back. And by the way, you owe. You owe. You have to pay money more than you have been, not only for your additional bills. You have to pay back what Trump is no longer allowing to be spent. And that, Alabama utility customers finding, hundreds of dollars taken out of their account in the middle of winter, right? I mean, I guess it's a small story in the grand scheme of things, given what's going on in our whole country. But for people in Alabama, that's a real and immediate and hugely expensive thing that is very obviously Donald Trump's fault in a state that really supported him. So what's the impact of that, right? I mean, Republicans from Alabama, like Alabama Senator Katie Britt, have started to freak out publicly about what Trump and Musk dismantling the government is doing to her state specifically. Quote, Senator Britt was one of the first Republicans to raise concerns at home soon after the Trump administration directed the NIH to slash $4 billion in costs for medical research grantees. Senator Britt, whose state has received more than $518 million in NIH grants just for projects that are currently active there, tells a local news outlet that she will press Trump officials to take a, quote, smart, targeted approach to cuts so as to, quote, not hinder life-saving, groundbreaking research at high-achieving institutions like the University of Alabama at Birmingham. What do you think the odds are that she's right? That what did she call it? That they're going to take a smart, targeted approach because they're trying hard not to hinder life-saving work. What do you think the odds are that she's right about that? Did I mention that 20,000 people, 20,000 Alabama residents just phoned into a town hall last night for their Democratic Congresswoman, Terry Sewell? Who do you think's got a better grasp on the stakes here for Alabama? Congresswoman Sewell dealing with 20,000 of her panicked constituents last night, or Katie Britt, who says, I'm sure they don't want to actually hurt us? In Kansas Republicans are now trying to salvage pieces of USAID, which was shut by Donald Trump and his top campaign donor, Elon Musk. They're trying to salvage pieces of USAID by moving those pieces into the agriculture department or someplace else that might survive, since Kansas farmers are taking the hit for millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of those USAID cuts already. In North Carolina, Republican Senator Ted Budd has decided to put his fingers in his ears and pretend it's not happening. Quote, Senator Ted Budd of North Carolina, whose state includes two of the largest recipients of NIH grants in Duke University and UNC Chapel Hill, said, quote, there's great research being done by all of our institutions. We need to protect that. Quote, I think the White House wants to protect that. Do they? Do you think they want that? Do you think that's why they just ordered devastating existential level cuts across the board immediately with no warning to all research institutions? It's because they want to protect that great research? Do you think that's why they did it? Senator Budd actually went so far as to say on the record that he, quote, agrees with Trump's cuts to universities and medical and scientific research. He agrees with it, and he is telling his constituents he agrees with these cuts. But, you know, he's also sure that the Trump White House really, in their heart of hearts, wants to protect the universities and research facilities. And like UNC and Duke are going to be fine, right? And all the other huge employers in his state that get that kind of funding, that provide, I don't know, the whole foundation for his state's economy. He's just told his constituents he agrees with these cuts that are likely to put thousands of people out of work in North Carolina and destroy the foundation of that state's economy. He says he agrees with those cuts, but he also thinks, you know, probably it's going to be fine. After all, they're good people. I'm sure their hearts are in the right place. Imagine being a Republican senator or member of Congress and trying to sell that Cybertruck full of horse hockey to your constituents. I'm sure it'll be fine. They're good people. Do you notice it's only Democratic members of Congress and Democratic senators who are holding these huge town halls? I wonder why Republicans don't want to talk to their constituents right now. I mean, and I got to say, it's not that talking to the constituents has been an easy thing for Democrats in these past 3 weeks. I mean, the Democrats are getting pushed by their constituents, too. They're getting pushed to do as much as possible, to do anything possible to stop Trump and what he's doing with Elon Musk. Here, for example, are Colorado residents turning up at the offices of Democrats John Hickenlooper and Michael Bennet, telling them, number one, vote no on all Trump cabinet appointments. Number two, deny unanimous consent to slow down the Senate. Number three, publicly oppose Musk's dismantling of the executive branch. Pushing these Democratic senators to push harder, to fight harder. That said, I said they're being tough. They did also bring cookies.
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about. Wait! Okay, now, from the beginning.
Here's Virginia residents turning up at Senator Mark Warner's office, telling him, fight back. Fight back, Senator Warner. Fight harder. Here's Georgia residents turning up at John Ossoff's office in Georgia, telling him, Ossoff, fight back. Here's New Jersey residents at Senator Cory Booker's office, telling him, Senator Booker, the time to fight is now. Fight like hell. Here's California voters at the office of Senator Alex Padilla. Block, delay, obstruct. No excuses. Here's Hawaii voters at the offices of their senators, Brian Schatz and Mazie Hirono. Senate Democrats, blanket opposition. What's happening right now in politics, and politics is the way we get out of this disaster, right? What's happening right now in American politics is that Republicans are hiding from their constituents. Republican elected officials are hiding from their constituents, and when they do have to address them, they are trying to tell them that they're sure everything is going to be fine. They have read-only access to the Treasury payment system, I was told. I'm sure they want to protect our universities and our life-saving work and research. I'm sure of it. Republicans are hiding from their constituents, and when they have to talk to them, they're telling them, la, 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 I'm sure it's going to be fine, when clearly it is not going to be fine. Democrats are not hiding from their constituents. Democrats are being inundated with not just feedback from their constituents, but also with their constituents pushing them to do more, to fight harder.